I've heard of VIP and I know what that means, but what does MVP mean? Okay, today we're talking about all things minimum viable product, and I'm John Harris, and welcome to another episode of Exponential Radio. We're up to step number 7 in the process of building out your own exponential type organization. Bear in mind that whilst you're looking at your enterprise, you also have to have, as an entrepreneur, you need to also step up your game with your skill sets, etc. But we'll discuss some of those things in following episodes. When you're looking at your MVP, the first thing you got to think about really is your customer. So, you got to do that customer discovery. So, who are you looking at as a broad spectrum? Are they entrepreneurs? Are they wives? Are they children? What is the product for? Health? Is it to do with finance? Is it to do with relationships? What is it going to be? So that customer discovery process is first of all the who. And look, if you say entrepreneurs, if you really get into it, you're going to say an entrepreneur that earns X amount of money through the process of selling whatever it is with a certain number of units. So you can draw that down, to get more detail. The next thing you need to think about is the validation. So it's one thing saying, okay, this is the customer, this is who we're going to put our message in front of. Are they willing to buy? Here's the question. A lot of times people will say they like something or they're interested in something, but they're not prepared to get their credit card out. So will they buy it? The next thing is, you want to, as I said, look at what they'll buy, but then you need to go deep enough into building out that product range and making it exciting enough. If you're just going to be 1% better than the next person's product or service, it's going to be tough to get that traction. For people to make change, they need to have what we would say is a 10x difference. So it needs to be a big differential before they're going to be willing to put that effort in, before they're excited enough to make the effort to change. So you look at your value proposition, and there are various canvases out there that can do this, where you're looking at the products and services, your value proposition, what different products and services, your total range, to the pain points that people are facing. Obviously, you're looking at to utilize your products and services to address certain pains, and to try obviously to relieve those pains. And to do that, once you know what a pain is, you're then going to figure out what is it that will solve that problem, and those are the gains that can be made. And this is with that customer segmentation, the various problems they're facing, and the various types of solutions that could address those problems. And then you look at the customer, the number of jobs you can actually put out there and do for the services that you provide, to see how that will help your customer in the end of the day. It's very important that you understand that digital MVPs are much quicker to adjust and to change. So you can have a minimum viable product, and if it's in a digital format, you can bang it out very quickly and get a response from your crowd, the people that are enthused by your products, and they will give you feedback quite quickly. So that helps. If it's a physical product, less so. But you can start with a first type prototype, something that's workable. An MVP is a minimum viable that will be able to perhaps get to market and get some feedback. So if you look at it, just to get the concept, if you're building a car, let's not chat too much about Elon's process because he does things slightly different, but you'd have your wheels, you have your chassis, you have the rest of the car parts, and you put the car together, and you particularly hope that model will sell in the marketplace. They would have done research, but a lot of times when you do research and you get ideas, like I say, they don't always pan out. A lot of software SaaS companies and platforms start out in one direction and end up going in another direction. So it's very important to understand that it's much tougher. If you do a minimum viable product, so you understand you get all those parts together and you have a product and you try to sell it to the market. Whereas with an MVP, you might start with something like a skateboard, just giving you kind of a freaky sort of idea here. And then you might have one of those pushed sort of scooters where you use your legs to push along the youngsters do. And then you might build a bicycle. These are all products that can be sold. And then maybe a motorbike, and then maybe a car. Okay, it's very simplistic, but that's the idea. You're having a product each time and you're improving on that product. So it's a different type of process. And you're going to get that from experiments. You need to look at you need to prove the desirability of what it is that you're doing, and you also need the viability. As I said, will people pay for it? So that desirability and viability are the key components of your product or service. When you build out that MVP, you're going to look, are you going to pivot, change direction with it? Do you need to actually build something completely different? Is this just not going to work? You're going to have to build something completely different. Or have you got something that you can just make a few small changes to that would then be all right? Do you have to, say, not just pivot, maybe make some radical changes within it? And lastly, if there's adjustments that need to be made going forward with other products that are a part of that product range that can be added to that, like a bolt-on, for example. So in conclusion, you want to build and test your MVP. You run experiments on it. You get feedback from your community, your crowd, and you're all about trying to make it so that it solves a pain point, obviously, a solution, and those jobs that it actually does, that it's at least a 10x. So that's something to think about to get your problem, to get some good outcomes, and those are your actual final solutions. And you'll see that even if you talk about Elon, why I mentioned Elon with his cars, with the type of car he's building, they are nowhere near. When cars sell, it's not so much money that they're trying to make on the car, the initial sale. In fact, a lot of them is kind of breaking even in the end. What they're trying to do is they make it from the parts thereafter. And it's that additional sales, continuous sales that is very important for them. And of course, with the Teslas, there's less parts and there's less things to replace. So they're not getting the same kind of revenue there. But obviously the batteries are one thing, but again, those are going to be extended. Their life is now, they've come up with 3 new types of solid state batteries. There's all sorts of things going on out there, and that's going to change soon as well. So we'll see how it all pans out, but he definitely goes the opposite direction to everybody else, and he's lowering that initial cost. He wants to bring out, I think it's a $10,000 car or $20,000 car. Can't remember. That's going to be a very much cheaper, affordable car. He's brought out his Boxable $10,000 house, and he's brought out his $100 phone, and so on and so on, and carries on. So it's very interesting, okay, and making it affordable, but solving a problem. So he looks at different types of sets of problems and wants to solve. People may want a 40,000 rand cell phone, but that phone has a lot of bells and whistles and very, very fancy cameras, etc. His may not have that same very, very fancy cameras, but he has a very workable camera and has a very efficient, very strong battery life, and those kind of things that you can work with that phone. It has all of those functions at a very high level. So that's a different thing, and it's very affordable. Anyway, that's a little bit about MVPs. Next time we'll talk about stage 8, and we're going to look about validating the marketplace and the sales. And as usual, you can always go back to get back episodes at johnarthurharris.blogspot.com, and we'll see you in the next episode.